Rebel Rousers, you are listening to the Primatech Files, a Southgate Media Group podcast dedicated to all things Heroes Prime and Heroes Reborn related. I am Ricky, and I'm flying solo today, but I am joined by three Primatech Peeps, and we're going to be doing a very late Rebellion Reborn Roundtable, the fan edition. We've got quite the spectrum of fans joining us today. This is the weekend of Batman vs Superman, and everyone is talking about the holy trinity of DC, but I am starting off with one of Primatech Files' original trinity, someone who's been with us since the very beginning, one English Idiot 101, Charlie.
Hi guys.
And we also have another great friend of the show and a pretty big deal in the Heroes fandom, a one Cogs.
Hi, Cogs.
And we also have friend of the show from the Heroes Fans Unite Facebook page, a one Mr. Chris Kirkpatrick.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
This is all good. Okay, so thank you all for taking the time to join us, and let's start off with the first question, and it's going to be, do you remember the time when you became a fan of Heroes? And I'll start off with Charlie.
I do. It's because I'm a fan of Zachary Quinn, so I wanted to see what it was like on Heroes, and I just became a fan of the show in general, other than just for him. So that's where it started for me.
Okay, and Cogs?
I was like with my cousin or something like that, and we were just, hanging out, and she's like, have you ever seen Heroes? And I'm like, no. And she ended up lending me the first season, and after that, like, just kept falling in love with Heroes. Yeah,
that's no problem. What was the live Heroes at then when you were watching the original? Like, what season were they into?
I think season 2 had just went off, so I watched that one online, and then I watched season 3 live.
Okay. And Chris, how about you?
You know what? I remember I've always been the biggest comic book geek you've ever known, and in my mind, I'd always just longed for seeing a TV show that had people with special powers and abilities. And so when I saw the previews for Heroes, it was just one of those things that caught my attention right from the very beginning. And so I started watching it and became a fan of it from that very first episode.
Oh, so were you one of the people who were like live watching it as it first started?
I was, and I've gone back and I've watched the series over and over again via Netflix and over the years. But man, I remember that very first episode and just getting hooked right there from the beginning.
Let's go with a question that's a little bit off topic, but do you have like a favorite moment, whether it be from Heroes or Heroes Reborn? And I'll start with Cogs.
Oh, goodness. Honestly, I think Micah's one of my favorite characters. He's always been. But I think when, at the very end of Dark Matters, where, it all comes together that, Rebel and Hero Truth are the same person, and it's all Micah, and Quentin sees that, and it's just they're in this little hideout still trying to save the world. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think all of us were looking for a older, kind of more mature Micah at that point as well, especially with the stuff that he was kind of doing in, season 3? So, yeah.
Right. He was like 12 saving the world.
Yeah, exactly. And he had like the whole rebel thing going on as well, so it kind of felt like a natural evolution. Chris?
Gosh, I think that I was just kind of running through in my head here kind of powerful moments, and I kept going back to that kind of season 1 finale where, I had really thought that the character of Nathan Petrelli was just this biggest jerk. He was everyone looked up to him as being like the better than his brother Peter, and he was more than willing to let his brother, blow himself up. And then he swoops in there at the very last minute and flies off.
Takes all the credit.
He does, but I really felt like that moment redeemed him in my mind.
Definitely.
And I thought it just was really powerful.
I remember watching the original Heroes and being like, oh, Nathan is like the worst. And then as I started watching, like rewatching, I was like, actually, Nathan's kind of cool. So yeah. Charlie.
God, I've got to think. Oh, I think it's got to be the finale for season 4, because I watched it so long after it actually finished that when I watched season 4, I was like, why didn't they make another season?
Right?
Yeah, it had to be that. When Claire falls off the Ferris wheel and reveals, I just wanted more, which I'm glad they made Heroes Reborn for that.
I definitely think it was the best kind of I'm going to say jumping off point. No pun intended. Because especially because they didn't really know if it was going to get another season or not, like when they were making it, and it wasn't until the very end that they knew that they were kind of cancelled. It left it, even though it was a really big cliffhanger, it left it with so many options for you as fans to think, to talk about, and also for the fanfickers to kind of write about, and for me the RPGers to kind of write about. So yeah,
Right?
is the best. So let's go on to Heroes Reborn. How did you guys feel that the kind of original Heroes Prime characters were integrated into Heroes Reborn? And I'll start off with Chris.
I really loved how they built their story around the character of Noah Bennett. I felt like he anchored the story at least kind of about halfway through, at least there, where things revolved around him and the journey that he was on. Hey, I will always feel like the OG Heroes. I would have loved to have seen more of our old favorites, Peter Petrelli, and you can never get enough Hero in the story. But I really did feel like having Noah Bennett as the central figure that we could you just kind of welcomed us into this kind of new realm here for Reborn. I think it was sort of a way for us that, I don't know, it just helped us to give us something to rally behind and get excited about.
Right.
Charlie.
Oh, I do agree about Noah, and I'm glad they didn't revolve it all around him, but I did like the fact that they included quite a few of the original heroes. I would like to see a few more, but I liked how they included them, especially Hero. Good to see Hero again.
Definitely. Cogs?
I would have liked to have seen more Micah, of course. I kind of like how we saw the original heroes, but they didn't completely outshine this new season, this new series, that even if we didn't have the, little flashes of Matt and Hero and Mahinder, everyone else, I think the series could have held on its own.
Yeah.
Thought that was really clever to still include them, but not have them be,
front and center, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way that they kind of explained it, that they were getting people who were integral to the new story that they were telling, and I think that how they used them was great. Obviously, we couldn't get all our favorites in, but it's whether or not that they had time to kind of work out a story for them to be in, or they were doing other things. And it's really weird how Mahinder's Sunil's his backstory to being in Heroes Reborn kind of came out towards the end, whereas you kind of knew that Massey was working on something else, and it was going to be a bit give or take whether they could get him. But then at the end, it was like, oh yeah, Sunil was meant to be a lot bigger, but he was working on Lucky Man. I feel that was a bit weird how that came out right at the end. So let's get on to the big question. What did you think about Heroes Reborn overall? Let's start with Charlie.
I really liked it. I was so excited when they first announced it. I couldn't wait to watch it, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, it wasn't as good as the original," but I really did feel it was almost as good as season 1. I couldn't stop watching it.
How about you, Cogs?
I was so happy with Reborn. I felt like I kind of wish there were another season to look forward to, because I'm still having the Heroes withdrawal.
Yeah.
But I thought that Reborn was brilliant for what it was supposed to be. We always knew it was going to be a mini-series, and we always knew it was going to, hey, this is sort of what happened, and here's a little piece of the story 5 years down the line, and I loved it.
Yes. And Chris?
I absolutely loved it, and I feel like what I really enjoyed about it was that we went into the story and we knew that we were going to get a clear beginning, a clear middle, and a clear end. Yeah. It wasn't going to just be a story that wandered along through. And so I really liked it. I thought they did a really good job of trying to keep it central and focused on one thing. What I love about the way that Tim Kring writes his stories is there's all these disparate elements that are always kind of, that they're going to work their way out and come together at some point. but I felt like they didn't get too lost in the details in the story. And so I really just enjoyed how everything kind of worked together, and the story just made sense.
I'm going to ask something a little bit off topic, but do you think that the kind of original Heroes, the nostalgia of the original Heroes, kind of hindered the watching of Heroes Reborn? And I'll start with Cogs.
Not really. Not for me personally.
Mm,
I would have liked some more like Heroes Prime feel, but it didn't take away from being able to love Heroes
yeah,
Reborn for me.
Chris.
I think that everybody it was natural if you were a fan of the original to do that comparison to the old to the new.
Mm,
And what I ended up doing before the show started was I went back and rewatched the entire 4 seasons
yeah.
before the new one began. And so, hey, it's hard. It's
Mm,
hard. I know that a lot of us have emotional connections with the old characters and everything else, but I still felt that there was enough substance on its own that really could have stood. I think it was its own separate kind of thing that I really enjoyed a lot.
yes. And Charlie.
I was kind of half expecting it to follow a little bit from what season one did, but when I started watching it, I knew that it's not going to follow season one. It's going to be its own thing. It had like flavors of it, but it was enough to be its own. I really like that.
Personally, I think it kind of hindered it because there was a lot of people who were waiting around for like the bigger, like a lot of people didn't get into the show until we got to like Game Over, which is the Hero episode, the first scene of Hero, and it just kind of made me a bit bitter because
Right?
you should like that there's like a slow burn, a hero slow burn, kind of to hear like how it starts, and I just felt you have to get to know these new characters before we can introduce the old characters. I did like the whole mystery behind Claire the whole way through. I really enjoyed it, and not because I had had enough of Claire. I think it was a great way to kind of it was a water cooler moment, and it's something that we don't really have that. It's just all on Twitter now. But there's people who are always like, well, Claire can't be dead. Well, Claire can't be dead, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, yeah, it kind of makes sense. But I think it's that kind of binge worthy culture that we've got nowadays, where people want everything kind of as soon as possible, and they don't want to have to wait week in to week out, or a 3 month or like a 2 month break in between mid-season break kind of thing. So yeah, let's start off with Chris. What character slash storyline do you think they could have done better?
I thought that there were a couple of minor characters that were introduced that they just seemed to kind of disappear a little bit.
Mm.
I kept feeling like the character of Emily.
Mm.
I always felt like I thought that there was going to be something more to her, like she was going to somehow be I don't know, a double agent.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
she never went any further than just being the sweet ice cream shop girl.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that there's more to her later on. She seemed to know a lot about comic books and her command of the French language when they arrived in Paris. Even the fact that he could teleport, nothing seemed to really surprise her. And that's why I felt like I was led along a little bit to expect that
Yeah.
there was more to her than met the eye.
Well, she was a little bit evil because she had a boyfriend, and then there she was just gallivanting around with
Yeah.
with Mr. Teleportation.
Right.
Whatever happened to Brad?
I know. I felt so
Oh
bad
my
for Brad.
goodness.
He was a hero in his own right. In our fan fiction, he was left in Carbondale saving people from the electrical storms that were happening there. So yeah, he went out like a hero, and still pining for Emily, wondering where she is.
Oh.
Along with her family, who kind of weren't teleported to Renatus or the new gateway. It was just her, which was weird. But yeah, I also agree with the kind of. I was so expecting her to either have a power or to be a double agent working for Erica the whole time.
Right. Like I was expecting her, like a few of us were talking about, like expecting her to have an ability and either be like you've been saying, like with Renatus, or maybe she was the way it was kind of set up that she knew so much and she just kind of wanted to help Tommy, we were kind of thinking maybe she's a part of Hero Truther because like they built up this entire Hero Truther lore and then they just kind of put it on the back burner.
Or maybe she was part of the kind of, because there was that weird episode where like she kind of gets introduced to Casper, or like, you know, she sees Casper and then all of a sudden there's that massive car crash which kind of came out of nowhere and never really got explained.
Right.
But I started thinking, like, it was just one of those things that I kind of had to start working out in my own mind. And I was just like, well, you know, you had Anne, who was the kind of conscience, and Emily was just another version of his kind of conscience. Whereas she was essentially saying, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. And she was that kind of comic book nerd, which he kind of needed. So yeah, Charlie, what character or storyline do you think they could have done better in Heroes Reborn?
I definitely agree about Emily. I kind of found her a little annoying after a while. She just didn't make sense. Like, her reactions were not what a normal girl my age, I'm guessing she's about my age, would have had. I would have been completely shocked.
Yeah.
But storyline-wise, the storyline about the underground tunnel with Carlos, I wanted more of that. They just disappeared and they forgot about it. Like, what happened to that? Like, you had one woman who went through and that was it.
Well, you have the books and the kind of comics kind of explain into that, but that's the thing about Heroes. They have all the kind of extra content which extrapolate more information on that, and it's still not that big thing. But there was always one question that I was asking about the Underground Railroad, and like, if all these people are going to like Canada, which is where it leads, isn't like right at the beginning the first thing we kind of see is like a French Canadian running away from a mob? Who's to say that this place in Canada is actually a safe haven for heroes or evos and not just like a massive a massive trap?
I had to laugh about that they're evacuating them to Canada when they're in LA.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, dude, you're an hour from Mexico. Why not just go across the border to Mexico? Why go 1,500 miles north? To me, that didn't make sense. But, you know, I'm not writing the show.
Maybe they want to do something different. They've been to Mexico a few times.
And Cogs.
I'm just going to say this about the railroad real quick. If I remember in the books, now whether or not you take the books as canon or not, I mean, there's been an entire thing about that. But I want to say that the French guy that we saw at the very beginning was actually, I want to say he was actually French, and that he was actually, there was this thing called the Petrelli movement. They had it for like 3 pages, and then they just kind of put it on the back burner. And I want to say he was a part of that, but I don't remember exactly, or if that was just something we were supposed to extrapolate.
I thought he was from Quebec.
Maybe. I don't remember. I just remember there's a lot of details and just explanation as Heroes is. I was kind of disappointed in the Colin storyline because when we first saw it, we were seeing, like when we were getting all of these previews, we were seeing this couple that was just mowing down Evos, and it was kind of played up like they've got the government against them, they've got all of this against them, they've got Renatus, and then they, on top of everything else, they have these 2 people that are just killing people because they're Evo. And they did that for like the first 2 episodes, and then it feels like they just kind of, well, no, now Luke is guilty, and now this, and now that, and they just kind of dropped it. I feel it would have been more epic to have it be more overarching, and they could have still done the entire morally gray guilt thing.
Definitely. Does anyone else feel that like kind of Joanne Collins got a bad rap?
Yeah.
Cogs, I know that you have you have a real big thing about this, but Chris, what do you think?
You know, Joanne, unfortunately, there was no redeeming value in her character. I felt like they had really portrayed her to be the loss of her son in this horrible terrorist act really just sent her over the edge. And as a character, she had gone so far that there was no hope of her coming back.
Yeah.
And but unfortunately, that also meant that even if you could somehow understand her feelings about being a mother losing a child, I still, there was nothing else to really latch us on and make her sympathetic or a character that I could necessarily understand.
Okay.
And so she was a very black and white character.
Charlie?
Yeah, I agree. She didn't have any redeeming qualities, and she was just like a too cliche sort of antagonist for me. I didn't feel sad when she finally got killed, and I didn't. Maybe that was the point, but she could have been a lot better a character. I just really do feel that.
Okay. Cogs?
I think I've talked about it a little bit before, but like, I feel like Joanne should have had, like, they gave Erica a backstory. Like, they had them both kind of set up as these just evil women. And then they gave Erica a backstory that kind of made you feel a little bit bad for her. And
Yeah,
like, oh, that makes sense. And with Joanne, they're just kind of like, well, her son was killed, which is tragic, and I don't want to take away from that. But she's killing people, and she's just psycho, and that's how they portray her.
Yeah.
And I wish they would have done her character a little bit better, because Joanne deserved more than that. She deserved like more of a grieving mother or something, not just.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the thing I liked about Joanne was that she was pretty much just evil throughout and not morally great, and that was something I kind of wanted in my bad guy. So yeah, that was basically me. But I think the one thing that they could have done was, in the flashback, they could have made her kind of have this not sociopathic nature, but you could kind of see that she was kind of always like this, and it was just the death of her son gave her a reason to like go, you know what, I'm just gonna kill as many fools as I can. And I think that something like that would have worked. She could have been there the whole like Joanne. That was like Joanne the vigilante was like the real Joanne, and the mother was just like this mask that she just put on. That's what I would have liked to have happened. But yeah, I like the fact that she was evil the whole way out. I also think it's a little bit xenophobic that she was English and she was the bad guy. So yeah, but that's just me being an Englishman.
Yeah, same
and Charlie
here.
agrees. So yeah.
Too many English bad guys get killed.
Let's go on to better things. Who was your character MVP and why? And if you want to do from like, well, I think if we're going to do Heroes Prime and Heroes Reborn, everyone's going to say that HRG is their Heroes Prime kind of MVP. But let's just go with, who is your favorite MVP from Heroes Reborn in total? That's including the old and the new. So I'll start off with Chris.
Well, you called it. I really love the character of Noah Bennett, and part of it is that I'm a dad. I've got girls, and I really just understand that nature of being a father and being protective of that, feeling that's my responsibility.
Can I ask a question as well?
Yeah.
Do you have a Haitian friend? No, I'm joking. Carry on.
Actually, he lives in Trinidad.
Okay.
But no, I really just felt like as a father, I've always told people I'm a very kind of introverted, quiet, shy kind of person. But if you mess with my family, you'll let loose the beast. And I felt like that here was a man who, on the one sense, he was a company man, and on the other side of it, everything he did was with the understanding that he was protecting his wife and his son, and primarily Claire. And so for me, I love that. And while I wish that we didn't have to sometimes do things in our lives that maybe we're not too entirely proud about, I kind of got his morally grayness, that sometimes he would walk that line, and he would even sacrifice himself in order to do what's best for his family.
Charlie.
I've been kind of struggling with this because there's so many characters that I do like and that I feel are really important. So I think excluding Noah for Heroes Reborn, it has to be either Miko or Tommy. Probably more Miko. I really liked Miko. I think she was so interesting because the twist, I did not see that twist coming. So I think she was such a good character, and I kind of see where her dad was coming from as well. So I really think she was good for Heroes Reborn.
Cogs?
I'm kind of struggling with this one too, because I liked Phoebe, like, of the Reborn characters, like the new Reborn characters. Phoebe and Melina were kind of on the same level for me. And I just kind of like, Phoebe was just kind of brainwashed into doing what she did. I kind of felt like she was kind of coerced, like, you have to do this for the betterment of mankind, but she didn't really realize what she was doing. And then Melina was just kind of isolated from the world. And I kind of felt like, I wish there were more scenes with them where they could have, like, paralleled off, or not paralleled, where they could have contrasted one another.
Yeah. I think I wanted to know more about Melina. Definitely. I think for a show that was about the twins, it was a hell of a lot about the Petrelli boy and not the quote unquote Bennett girl, which is weird. But I really wanted there to kind of be more to her character. And me and Lilith did our fanfic season 2, and our season 2 would have had Melina kind of more at the forefront, because I think she's got I think she's a more kind of interesting person, or I like her to be a more interesting person. But my MVP is always going to be Quentin, because he's the new he's going to be the new HRG if they bring back a season 2. He's that kind of human kind of morality kind of that they kind of need to kind of keep their humanity, I guess. But I'd also like to see him get a bit better, like in the kind of however long it is before we maybe get a season 2, he comes back and he's just like pretty much just HRG. Like, he's good with a gun, he's no longer but he's still got that kind of twitchiness about him. So the way I'm gonna kind of say it is he's kind of HRG but with kind of Tourette's. Like, he's just got that kind of conspiracy theorist switch. So yes, we're going to go on to the extra content of Heroes Reborn. And did any of you check it out, and which one was your favourite? And I'm going to start off with Cogs.
I've only done the ebooks and the webisodes, and I like them both, but I really enjoyed the ebooks for the content. Like, the writing was interesting, but I liked the content, and I know everyone hates the save the cheerleader, destroy the world, but I really liked it because it did give some backstory, like, hey, this is what Peter's been doing, this is what Silay's been doing, this is where, Renee has been, and I enjoyed that. That was really nice.
It's the thing about with the books, especially that Save the Cheerleader, Destroy the World, it really didn't matter what was written. I think people would have had angst against it anyway, because, it's like everyone's had 5 years to think, oh, this is what I think Claire would be doing, and it's everyone's point of view, and you're never going to change someone's kind of point of view. It's like the whole Batman versus Superman thing. Like, at the moment, everyone's like either really loves it or really hates it. Chris,
I feel like a terrible Heroes fan. I have not read the books. I have not read the books.
I'm not the only one.
I know. I felt really bad about that, and I'm an avid reader. I've really kind of restricted myself just to the Heroes Fans Unite discussion, and in that I've seen people kind of go and share little tidbits of what they've read from the books, and so I've kind of lived vicariously through them, in a manner of speaking, but. At some point, I think I need just to break down and go and read these things for myself.
And of course, you've been listening. Of course, you've been listening to our podcast breakdowns about them as well. So
I have. You guys are absolutely brilliant. So that certainly helps out a whole lot.
Sorry, I was just being like a bit sarky there. I wasn't like. I don't want anyone to think I'm really arrogant at this point. But Charlie, how about you?
Oh, I wish I had set out the extra content. I really do. I think I should at some point. I've been so busy with like my college work. I think I kind of like sort of forgot about that it even existed. It was just the episodes for me. But when I get time, I will try and find it and read it.
Well, we still got a while until maybe Heroes Reborn season 2 or whatever the next incarnation is called comes back. So you've got something to keep you occupied until
through the summer.
Exactly. So let's talk about. I'm going to go straight to what would you like to see in a would-be season 2. We'll start off with Cogs, because I'm sure you have a lot of things to talk about. So yes.
Oh my goodness. I could do an entire thing on this, like an entire episode. Oh my goodness. I really want to know more about the cards. I want to know how they got there, what ability was used to give both of the twins this feeling of being watched.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of curious about the father. I've already got it narrowed down to 2 people, but I could live without that knowledge because that would probably break the fandom.
Yeah. Well, they already did that with Save the Cheerleader, Destroy the World. So, yeah.
So, I like the fandom as it is right now. Let's not break it more. I thought it was so cool because they mentioned this with, I think it was Samuel in season 4, but the Evo, like in utero, the Evo baby ability affecting the mother. And I want to see more of that. I think that would be amazing to see. I would love to see that like world building done.
And we've also got an Eve O baby on the way with Eve Harlow. Or, sorry.
Taylor. Yeah, that's
exactly.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see more about her baby. And then, of course, like, I feel like they kind of, once again, back to they dropped the hero truther lore and then they didn't do much with it. I would love to see more of that. And then also, like, the El Vengador. Like, I feel like they would work together, like, really well.
Definitely. It would be like it would be like, he would be their oracle, just giving them stuff from, like, headsets. But, Chris, is there anything you'd like to see from season 2?
You know what? Really, I think that you can't drop this bombshell on us about the father wanting to somehow get Tommy and Melina. And in some ways, he has every right to want to have some kind of relationship with his kids. You wonder why he doesn't just come out there and say, "Hey, surprise, it's Daddy," right? I don't know why he has to necessarily give them a tarot card and kind of veil this in a threat other than to amp up this whole reunion kind of thing. And then make it seem like, Angela Petrelli is now in a place where she can't protect them anymore. This is Melina and Tommy. I think they can probably defend themselves.
Yeah,
it does make me wonder then exactly how powerful this guy is. Or does he roll with people who are powerful in their own right? I mean, that's kind of how I think about it. It'd be really neat just to see how that whole thing plays out. I think that when I was thinking about where the story should go from here, as much as I'd love to believe that after saving the world from this Healy and everything else, human nature being the way that it is, we misunderstand and mistrust things that we don't understand. And I don't see the fear of Evos going away. In fact, almost in a global sense, I can see things becoming that much more difficult. And so I think seeing more of the underground and more of the vigilantism, facing a world that knows they exist and is going to actively seek them out, to me seems like a really neat direction they could take the story.
Cool. Charlie?
I really want to know who the dad is. I want to know why he's leaving these tarot cards. I think they probably wanted a season 2 if they ended it like that. So, and yeah, Taylor's baby would be interesting. I just quite like the characters. I just want to see what happens to them after the Healy event, especially Miko.
And
so
Ren.
and Ren, that's it.
But they live happily ever after.
I know, since the Miko he knew wasn't the Miko he thought he knew. Oh yeah. And thinking about what Chris said, what he said kind of reminded me a little bit of Marvel Civil War sort of thing. Like, even though they've done good things, like, people will fear them. So it'd be interesting to see sort of social and cultural aspects of all these powers across the world, not just in America where they usually have it. So
yeah, definitely. My idea that I had a while ago was that we did, because I want HRG back, I want Jack Coleman back. So the only way we can do that is to kind of have a flashback season. So my idea was going to be the previous 5 years, but told from, like, the father's point of view. And so we get a chance to kind of meet the father and get to know him, and see what kind of makes him want to take his kids back, like, it's the way I kind of see it is like the last season of How I Met Your Mother. You don't kind of just want to introduce this guy and straight away he's a bad guy. I want to know more about this person leading up to it, and the end of the season will just be him handing off the cards to them, and that will be how the season closes. And we still can get everyone back. We can get that way. We can get Claire back. We can get HRG back. We can get everyone back, and then we can find out more about our kind of heroes that. The new heroes from Heroes Reborn, and we can also have like kind of new characters from the ebooks and stuff like that come into it. Yeah, and also I think it's fairly interesting that the two cards say Twins and Destroyer, and that could be like, you know, the father is the Twins Destroyer, or the twins are going to destroy something. So maybe he's a good guy and he just wants to save the world, as much as I know Chris doesn't want any more world saving. So yeah.
Where can they go after they've saved the world from a solar storm?
Exactly.
Both of those, the twins card kind of correlates to the lovers, like in the traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck.
Okay.
And so the twins card kind of correlates to the lovers card, and the destroyer card kind of correlates to the devil card. And both of those cards, like, I know that sound kind of bad, and like the way that media traditionally portrays them kind of is, but both of them have to kind of do with regret and dealing with your past choices and, you know, trying to figure out where to go from there. And I think it would be interesting to see, because that's what the twins are going to have to do next. Like you guys have said, where do you go after you've saved the world and you're only 16? Like, you can only go down from there. So
we just come back and Tommy's like a full-blown alcoholic, just wanting to regain that feeling. But yeah, I am going to leave us at that discussion point there. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time for coming on. If you guys want to leave your Twitters or anything you want anyone to get in touch with you, Charlie?
If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at EnglishIdiot101. That's how you can follow me.
Cogs?
You can find me at Bennett Twinnet on Twitter.
Cool. And Chris, do you have anything you'd like to shout out?
I'm always up for a good conversation on Facebook. Heroes Fans Unite.
Yes.
So come and talk to me.
Cool. So I'd like to thank you all for coming on. I hope everyone who's listening found this entertaining and informative. And until next time, keep the rebellion alive.